As we begin our first essay unit, I want to talk to you about the steps that you need to take to actually complete any essay unit or really any major writing assignment. You can see here that there are basically 6 steps. Now, I've not included submitting as part of the step because you just have to turn it in. You don't have to actually do any work to do that, really. So these are just the things that happen before you get to the submission part. So the first step is to read the instructions. I know that might sound idiotic, but I can only believe that some students don't read the instructions thoroughly based on what I get from them as the assignment. I take a lot of time to give you detailed instructions that I hope aren't too complicated. So you need to read them multiple times. Read them and annotate. That means take notes. Highlight all of the requirements, the things that are grade breakers, right? Watch any videos that I have given you that go through the instructions and explain the assignment. Read any other handout that I might provide, right? That is the first step. Understand the assignment. And if you don't understand something, then you reach out for help. 2, consult other materials. I also provide for every major assignment, and usually for even some of the smaller assignments, if they have to do with completing a major assignment, examples. Right, so you're going to see an example essay from a student. You're going to see examples of the outlines or of worksheets or whatever I'm asking you to do. So you need to look at those, and when you have a draft of yours finished, kind of hold them up side by side and look at them. Do you see any differences in the layout or design or the formatting? Read the example and say, is there anything that's in here that I'm not putting in mine in terms of like a content element, right? I usually only give you examples that are A-level papers, things that I've given an A+2 or an A. So you can see them as exemplars of what I also am expecting from you. So again, look at those examples. Look at the PowerPoints that I've provided. Oftentimes I will give you choices because I know different people like to get information in different ways. So you'll have something that is just the handout that's text driven. I will also try to provide you with some kind of like a PowerPoint version of it or a video version. So you can choose, and I'll make that pretty clear if you have the option that you have to watch all of these, or do you have the option of watching or reading, something like that, right? I would always say read the instructions, don't watch the video, read the instructions, and then if that's not sufficient, go to the video, right? Again, you've got your textbook that's also going to be a consulting book for you in terms of understanding like grammar, mechanics, and style and that kind of thing. I will oftentimes give you links to maybe other sources if you want other examples, and this is something that you do in every step of the unit. Right? You look for those other materials. You reach out for me for help if you need it. You look at those links, right? But don't overlook those helps if you're really lost, right? The first step then, once you get done with that, is to pre-write, right? And by this time you should have already seen the writing process lectures that I've given you. So again, I'm not going to go over what these are. You can consult those. But again, the third step, right? So read the instructions, consult other handouts to get kind of an overview of what's going on. And then when you actually start working on your assignment, pre-write. Do not skip this. This is what we call the discovery or invention phase of writing. This is where you get down on paper all sorts of ideas. And once you put them on paper, they start becoming real and they're easier for you to deal with. If they're all up here in our head, then you can't really do much with that, right? And again, repeat. Remember, you can repeat any of the pre-writing techniques at any stage of the writing process. When you kind of get stuck and you're not sure what to do, just brainstorm, free write, whatever. Then once you get the pre-writing done, the next thing you do when you're preparing for drafting is you do those 4 steps, right? You consider what is your audience, what is your purpose, what are important contexts, and what is your thesis statement. And once you have those done, then you can actually start writing the paper. Now remember, if you've watched the video for that or read the information I've given you, those are what we call working thesis statements, working audiences, and those kind of things. Because writing is messy, and you might need to tweak or sometimes substantially change what you thought was going to be your audience, or what you thought was going to be one of the 3 points you're using to support your thesis, right? So again, that's going to happen, but you need to at least have those things written in pencil, if you will, before you start drafting. And then this one, when we call draft, we're thinking about at this point the rough draft. And all the rough draft is, it is the first completed version of your paper. And usually that's going to be rough. There are going to be things that need to be developed, need to be tweaked or outright changed. It's not going to be necessarily your best language. That's okay, right? The idea for that first draft is just to complete it. And then you go back and you look at it and you say, oh, what have I left out? What have I still to do? What am I not really sure what I need to be doing at that point? What needs to change, right? And that's when we come to revision, right? So if you think about the word revise, the word vision is in revision, right? Looking at it. So you are looking at it again. And at this level, we're looking at your content and ideas. We're not really concerned about MLA. We're not really concerned about grammar, mechanics, and style. We are thinking about what are you actually saying? What examples are you giving? What is the logic that you're using to develop your ideas? That's what we want to do here, right? We're also looking for consistency. Right? Is the audience the same throughout? Am I using, the same kind of level of reflection and explanation, consistently? So those are the things we're doing here in revision. And notice it says revision drafts. You really ought to do more than one revision draft, because if you think about what I said just now, I said that first part of it is we're looking at our ideas and content, and then we're looking at consistency, right? Well, it makes sense to do those in really kind of two drafts. Revise once to make sure all of your ideas and content are there, and then go back and start making sure that it's all consistent with your audience, your purpose, your context, right? You can try to do that all in one, and sometimes you will do some of those things at the same time, but it's nice to have those as two separate stages so that you're not overlooking something because you're trying to do too much at once. So once you have your ideas and your content down, the essay is consistent when it comes to audience, purpose, and context, right? Everything is about the thesis. Then you start what we call the editing and proofreading process, right? So this is where we are looking at our language. Are we using standard academic English consistently? Is the language suitable to our audience, right? Are we using MLA style? Right. And again, I would say that these should be two drafts when you're beginning as a writer. Do one that you're just worrying about the language use, right? Have I chosen the best words for this audience? Have I, used interesting sentence structures? Do I have any kind of fragments or grammar problems? And then after you get all that done, then do your MLA as one of your last stages, and then go through and make sure your MLA style is correct. Remember, I do have that MLA master guide that gives you all of the rules in an easy way to find it. You can search it using your computer because it's a PDF. I've also given you that template for an essay that's got all of the MLA set up for you, so you can also use that if you don't know how to set things on the computer. But again, I would say do those in separate drafts. And then proofreading is that last draft that everything is done, but you just go through it one last time to make sure you didn't overlook that you wrote form when you meant from, that kind of mistake, right? That's just a really last quick go through. I would also say that as you're doing the revision and editing drafts, get your handout out, get the instructions out, and go back through and make sure that you've met all of the requirements, that in the process of trying to get the essay finished, you've forgotten maybe one thing that's really important. So again, go back and look at those handouts, look at the sample papers to make sure you're on track. And then the last thing you have to do is finish it, turn it in for a grade. So again, make sure you're following all the steps that make sense when you're trying to complete an assignment. Take your time, start early so that you don't run out of time when life gets in the way. And again, always reach out for help if you need it. Don't be ashamed to say, hey, I just don't get what's going on with this, or would you mind looking at this thesis and telling me if it's good or not? Now, I will pick up an outline that lets me see those things, but maybe before it's due, you want to run something by me. That's great. Just give me enough time to give you feedback before it's due and we won't have a problem. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.